Hello? Okay, I looked it up and apparently... Okay, you know what, guys? I think it's two things. I have something set up where it's... I don't know what a replay buffer is. Where the heck is the replay buffer? Like, what is a replay buffer? I don't know when I installed that, but... See, sometimes it just starts... Oh, is that it? Okay. Because sometimes it just starts turning on. And I don't want it to do that. Let's see. Do I have like a replay buffer key that I'm pressing? Hi, Pride! Thank you for the quazzles! Mine auto starts when I start stream. Oh. So it should be going? I don't know. I feel like every time it's going, oh, somebody's rainbow. Is that you, Pappy? Oh, look at the little slug cat. Heck yeah. I think it was, here, let me snooze the alarm because you guys had ads already. It's you? Oh yeah, it is you. You did work really hard for the... You look ridiculous, but you love it. I want to see. Aw, oh, devil! Okay, I'm examining all your fits. This one's Ash with the cute little... The little slug cat. And the jester thing. And then we have... Panda? Panda spotted? Panda? Then we have PT. Slug Cat's just a little guy, you know? It doesn't have to go with anything. You could just be the little guy. Then we have Pride here. We have Nyarlin, of course. Snickle Fritzel. Fee! Ah, yeah, Kari wings. Some sunglasses. Very nice. You did Mikarin! Very cute. Ven has some cute sparkles. Hi! You're back? I'm back as well. Okay, guys, we might have a time limit today, so I'm gonna start reading. I think we went through everything that I needed to talk about. We got the stream avatars, we got... Don't worry, then. I always do recaps. I always do previously on. Unless it's a new book, which we're not at a new book, so don't worry. Yeah, so updates. Let me see, make sure. Oh, yeah! Okay. Recaps, we have... Look at that! Look at that. Look at that. The emote for... Okay. Why is avatars and flavors two different things anyways? Why aren't they both essentially the same and override each other? Aren't they both... Wait, what's avatars? Flavors are the ones that are... Yeah. I don't know what it is, but the reason that flavors are in a different place is because they're more detailed and they required like special editing to make sure that they can move, right? Because there's like they're colored different than like just like a recolor, which is fine. It's easy to just like copy paste like the recolor on everything, but because like for example the radiation or the rainbow, even the demon one, those ones are more detailed, so it requires like little more extra work. And then the colors are basic. Right, so stream avatars. I might have to leave early, depending on if we get an email back to if we can pick up Kitty Kitty, which I am praying to the Lordy above. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Okay, let's begin. So, previously on Starlight Warrior Cats. What did happen last time? Oh, right. So they went and they scouted out the area. They decided their different places, like their territories, pretty much. Tallstar, as he was dying, was like, "Hey, actually, can you bring One Whisker here? Yeah, One Whisker, you're gonna be the deputy now." And then Mudclaw? I don't know what his name was. One of the Muds, he was like, he was pretty mad. They announced it Firestar announced it with One Whisker randomly, like just to the entire clan without talking to Mudclaw first. Like, hey, by the way, One Whisker was changed to deputy and Mudclaw is out of a job. And then One Whisker was like, you can still be my deputy. And then Mudclaw was like, no. And then One Whisker's like, oh, okay. And then he assigned Ash something, who is Crowfeather's mom, to be the deputy. And that was cute. So then they set off. They all went their separate ways into their own territories. We kind of got lost on our way to the territories because it was nighttime and they didn't know the territory. They went into the little camp and then everyone was kind of disappointed and like they weren't disappointed, but it wasn't as eye-opening and beautiful as Brambleclaw had wished. They went to sleep and then in the middle of the night, Mouse Fur had a tummy ache, and it was because Mothwing was giving everybody water that had a dead rabbit in it, and so she got sick because of that. And then because they're still in the mindset of like every cat for themselves. No, every cat together, because the clans have been working together. They're like, oh, we should go tell the other clans about the tummy ache water. And then Firestar was like, And then Leafpaw was like, oh, sorry, maybe we should at least tell Wind Clan because they're close. And then he was like, all right, you can go tell Wind Clan, I guess. And that's where we're at. So Leafpaw is about to go with Cinderpelt and Thornclaw to go... Leafpaw's about to go to Wind Clan to tell them about the water that had been contaminated by a dead rabbit. Hunger Games. All right, let's go. Chapter 11. Are you stuck? Thornclaw. Oh wait, sorry. Let me read the last bit of the last chapter because it just continues immediately after that. Leafpaw pushed her way into a patch of ferns, which looked less prickly than the bramble bushes next to it, and paused in the middle, breathing in the strong green scent around her. On the other side, beyond the gap that led into the stone hollow, the unknown forest lay waiting. No, ThunderClan's new territory lay waiting. Are you stuck? Thornclaw asked, nearly bumping into Leafpaw as he pushed through the ferns. Leafpaw sprang forward, out of the sharp-smelling stems. Sorry, she puffed. Thornclaw followed more slowly and looked at her. It's all a bit strange, isn't it? He mewed. But this is as strange as it will ever feel. Remember that. We only have to explore once for it to seem more like home. Feeling comforted, Leafpaw padded beside him, away from the hollow. When she glanced back a few moments later, the stone cliffs had vanished among the trees, and all she could see were smooth gray trunks and branches that trembled in the wind. She was pleased to think that her clanmates were sheltered by the towering walls, invisible and safe in the middle of the wood. Voices sounded up ahead, and they rounded a sturdy oak tree to find Cloudtail, Brightheart, and Sorreltail sniffing suspiciously at a gap between the roots. This was the patrol that Firestar had sent out to explore the territory that lay closest to the hollow. Fox, Leafpaw heard Cloudtail meow. Brightheart lifted her head and carefully tasted the air. It's very stale, she decided. I don't think the fox can have been there for moons. Oh, wait, sorry. I don't think the fox... No, they just wrote this sentence weird. I don't think the fox has been there for moons. Shall I go in to look? Sorreltail offered. Brightheart shook her head. Didn't your mentor ever warn you about going into strange holes? We can smell there's nothing there. Let's keep going. Sorreltail called out a greeting to Leafpaw, then followed the warriors as they headed deeper into the woods. Leafpaw stopped to let Cinderpelt catch up, and gazed around her. Trees stretched away on all sides, their branches interwoven so tightly that only tiny splinters of sky showed through. The trees weren't as tall as the ones in the forest they had left, but Leafpaw guessed that in Greenleaf their leaves would form a thick, cooling canopy. Most of the ground was covered by short grass with spikes of snowdrops thrusting upwards, and the occasional clump of thorn bushes and bramble thickets. It was more exposed than Leafpaw was used to, and she hoped that ferns and other plants would grow in New Leaf to provide homes for prey and to make the cats feel safer as they patrolled their territory. Cinderpelt reached her and limped steadily on, following the sound of running water. We're not likely to find juniper here, she commented as the three cats padded side by side. Leafpaw, what else might we use for bellyache? Watermint? She suggested. Or chervil root? They would be both fine, Cinderpelt agreed. Watermint should be easier to find than chervil root. They reached the stream, which flowed in a deep cleft between the tangled roots of overhanging trees. Leafpaw stood on the bank and looked for signs of leafy green plant. But all she could see was water sliding down over gray stone about a tail length below her, with bright green ferns trailing over the edge of the bank. Let's try the other side. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Guys, I got the note. Sorry. Kitty today. We pick him up. Okay. That means we leave 5 p.m. Sorry, let me just imagine we got the kitten on Warrior Cat Wednesday. Okay, then. I'll see you. Name him Barley! We're still debating. Barley is one of the top ones, though. Does that mean he'll be a warrior, too? Maybe. Maybe it's a sign that we should name him Barley because it's Warrior Cat Wednesday. Okay, I'm just gonna watch the clock then. But we still have at least, like, an hour and a half to read. He is, like, I think he's, like, pretty much... He's a little older than apprentice age. StarClan is giving signs. No, you're right. Okay. Let's try on the other side, Thornclaw suggested when they came to a place where the bank sloped down and they could splash across. Cinderpelt agreed, but it was much the same, open woodland with little in the way of undergrowth. Then Leafpaw smelled damp soil, a bit like the marsh at the far end of the lake. Watermint didn't have to grow in a stream. Sometimes wet earth was enough. She raced ahead, pushing her way through some spiky tussocks of grass, and spotted the tall, leafy stems hidden in a clump of bracken. Good work, Cinderpelt praised her, coming to join her. There's enough here to supply us regularly. Tipping their heads to one side, they bit through several stalks. Leafpaw's eyes watered as sap clung to her fur, filling her mouth with the pungent scent. I'd better get back to camp, Cinderpelt meowed when they had finished picking the watermint. Thornclaw, will you help take Leafpaw to WindClan now? We'll see you home first, meowed Thornclaw. I don't think any cat should be alone in these woods until we know a bit more about them. He led them back a different route, calculating from the way the ground sloped that it should lead more quickly to the stone hollow. They passed beneath some beech trees, and Leafpaw's belly rumbled as the scent of squirrel flooded over her. Thornclaw tasted the air with a gleam in his eyes, and Leafpaw guessed he was ravenous too. "Do we have time to hunt?" he asked Cinderpelt. The medicine cat set down her stems of watermint. "If we don't take too long." "This won't take long at all," Thornclaw promised. He flicked his ears towards the nearest tree, and Leafpaw spotted a squirrel among the roots, nibbling a beechnut. Thornclaw paused for a moment to judge the direction of the breeze, then began stealthily working his way around so that he approached the squirrel from downwind. Bunching his hindquarters under him, he pounced. The squirrel gave one spasmodic kick and was still. "Come on," he called. "There's enough for all of us." The fresh kill was delicious, and Leafpaw offered a quick prayer of thanks to Starkland for bringing them to a place where the prey was plump and slow. Her mouth was filled with the scent of squirrel, so she had no warning when 3 cats suddenly appeared around the trunk of a tree a little ways off. They paused for a heartbeat when they spotted the ThunderClan cats, and then loped towards them. As they drew closer, Leafpaw realized it was a WindClan patrol made up of Tornir, his apprentice Owlpaw, and Whitetail. Swallowing his last bit of fresh kill, Thornclaw rose to his paws, but Tornir spoke first. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "This is WindClan territory." What do you mean this is WindClan territory?" Thornclaw stared at him in surprise. "The boundaries haven't been marked yet." "We're marking them now," Whitetail explained, sounding faintly embarrassed. "Firestar said the stream that runs along the foot of the hill would be the boundary, and this is on WindClan's side." "Firestar also said that was only a suggestion," Thornclaw reminded the WindClan warriors. He waved his tail around. "Look, trees. This is the sort of place where ThunderClan are best at hunting. You need moorland and rabbits, right?" "There's not much moorland here as there was in the old place," Tornir explained. "We need to extend the territory into these woods, or we won't be able to support our clan." "Well, you're not extending it here," Thornclaw meowed firmly. But the fur along his spine bristled, and Leafpaw guessed he felt very uncomfortable. It was impossible for any cat to forget how close the clans had been on their journey. Back in the forest, claws would have been unsheathed by now. But here, there was no instinct to fight over territory they hadn't finished exploring. Do you think StarClan will send us a sign to show us where the boundary should be?" she asked Cinderpelt. The medicine cat shook her head. StarClan would never favor one clan above the other, or get involved in disputes. This is something the clans have to sort out for themselves. The warriors stood around awkwardly for a few more moments. Whitetail spotted the pile of watermint stems. "Are those for bellyaches?" she asked. Yes, Leafpaw replied. "Are some of your cats ill too?" Whitetail cast a swift glance at Tornir before she replied. "Yes," she answered. "Morningflower and Darkfoot." Morningflower? That was worrying. Leafpaw knew the WindClan queen had always been a friend to ThunderClan. "What is Barkface doing to her?" "There's not much he can do without herbs," Tornir meowed. "The last I heard, he'd gone looking for juniper. I just hope he doesn't take too long. Morningflower looked pretty sick to me." Leafpaw spun around to face her mentor. "I can take some watermint to WindClan right now," she mewed. "These cats can show me the way, and Tornir can go back to the hollow with you." "Of course," Cinderpelt meowed. "Be as quick as you can." "Hi, Naoki." All of the warriors looked relieved to have something more urgent to think about than the issue of boundaries. Thornclaw and Cinderpelt set off towards the stone hollow, while Leafpaw went in the other direction with the WindClan cats. They led her to the edge of the trees, just as they had said. The stream curved into the woods here, away from the foot of the hills, and across open moorland. Then they climbed more steeply beside another stream that fell in a series of tiny, bubbling waterfalls. A few stunted thorns grew along the banks, with traces of rabbit scent clinging here and there. So there was prey for WindClan here, Leafpaw thought. Had Tornir been telling the truth when he said it might not be enough? Alas, they came to the top of a rise, fringed by bushes, and Leafpaw found herself looking down into WindClan camp. The sides weren't as steep as the cliffs around ThunderClan's hollow, but the smooth, bare slopes gave no cover for attackers. Leafpaw spotted One Whisker and Ashfoot talking with a couple of the warriors near a scatter of boulders in the center of the dip. "I'll take you straight to Morningflower," Whitetail meowed. "And I'll tell One Whisker And I'll let one whisker know you're here, Torn Ear added, headed down the slope with Owlpaw. Whitetail led Leafpaw to a knot of gorse bushes at the far side of the hollow. Leafpaw's pelt pricked under the stares of WindClan warriors as she padded past, but they were curious rather than hostile. Morningflower lay on the bed of ferns in the shelter of bushes. Darkfoot was curled up a tail length away, but Leafpaw couldn't take her horrified gaze from the old she-cat. Morningflower lay limply stretched out, her breathing harsh and shallow. Her belly was distended, and a sour smell of vomit came from her. Her eyes were closed, and she was still except for the occasional twitch of her flank. To Leafpaw, she looked as if she were barely a paw step away from joining StarClan. Sitting down the watermint stems, Leafpaw bent her head closer to Morningflower. But before she could do more than set one paw gently on her belly, she was interrupted by a furious snarl. What do you think you're doing? That's probably... Oh, chapter 12. I was going to say that's probably Mudclaw, but we switched Cat's POV. Thank you for the hydrate, Naoki. Naoki. It's the circle of life, Ash. Life, death, warriors fighting. He is also a kitty pet, so... And Barley lived a good life. Lives a good life. I don't know if he's dead, actually. Anyways, chapter 12. Fox! Brambleclaw lifted his head to taste the air more carefully. The scent clung to the bramble thicket beside him, strongest around a rough-edged tunnel that looked as if it had been made by slender bodies pushing through it regularly. It was here not long ago, he warned Brakenfur. There might be an earth nearby. They were leading a patrol to find landmarks for the boundaries of the new territory and to put down the first scent markers. Rainwhisker was with them, and Dustpelt had come too, leaving Whitepaw and Spiderpaw dragging thorns into place to block the camp entrance. We'll report it to Firestar, Brakenfur decided. We just need to be careful until we find out whether it lives here or if it was just passing through. Brambleclaw nodded. His fur tingled with excitement. All his doubts about the hollow forgotten now that it was daylight, and the cats could see what a good place it made for camp. He had been glad when Firestar chose him to patrol the new boundaries. Every paw step made the woods feel more like ThunderClan territory, and he deliberately brushed against brambles and tree trunks as he walked along, to leave a scent trail that was unmistakably theirs. He let Brakenfur take the lead as they padded on. As they skirted a clump of hazel, Dustpelt stopped to sniff a low-hanging branch. He looked up, and his eyes were so full of concern that the other three went over to examine the scent as well. They looked apprehensively at each other as they scented Two Legs. At least it's stale, Brakenfur pointed out. Days old, I'd say. But they come here, Dustpelt curled his lips. If I never see another two-legged, it'd be too soon. Brambleclaw took a deep breath to stop his heart pounding. He felt exactly the same way. But it would be a sign of weakness to show his fear in front of these warriors. This was their home now, and they couldn't live every day expecting to have it snatched away from them. He let his tail tip rest briefly on the older warrior's shoulder. This is the first scent we've picked up since leaving the hollow, he pointed out, and we're a long way away from a thunder path. There won't be any monsters. Dustpelt flicked his ears and padded on without speaking. The others followed. Brambleclaw kept to the back, half afraid the others would see the terror in his eyes as he tried to push away images of the forest crashing down around them. Trauma. Let's hunt, Brakenfur suggested. Good idea, Rainwhisker agreed. No cat mentioned that it would be a welcome diversion from thoughts of Two Legs and monsters, but they all concentrated on tracking prey as if they had been starving for a moon. Brambleclaw slowed down to drink in the mingled scent of squirrel and rabbit and birds. He jumped when he heard an alarm call and saw that Rainwhisker had brought down a starling. Nodding appreciatively, he headed past the young warrior, further into the forest, until he spotted a thrush pecking among the gnarled roots of a dead tree. Crouching low enough for his belly fur to brush the fallen leaves, he crept forward until he could pounce on it and dispatch it with a swift blow to the neck. As he lowered his head to take a bite, a weight landed on his back, and he felt claws digging into him. Instinctively, he flung himself sideways and rolled over to dislodge his attacker. Scrambling away from slashing claws, he caught a glimpse of ginger fur and at first thought it was breaking fur. Had his clanmate gone mad? But when he scrabbled for a foothold and managed to spin around, he saw that he was facing a snarling Shadow Clan warrior. Rowan-Claw, what are you doing? What do you think? Growled the Ginger Tom. Defending the Shadow Clan boundary, of course. What? Brumaclaw looked around and realized that the beeches and oak trees that grew around ThunderClan camp were mixed with pine here. Don't pretend you didn't know. You crossed our scent markers. I didn't notice any scent markers at all, Brambleclaw protested. They must be too faint. He shied away from the other possibility, that the clan's scents had become so mixed while they were traveling together that no cat could tell one from the other now. If that were true, it would be impossible to set any boundaries at all. Too faint, Rowan-Claw sneered. Mouse dung! Admit it, you were trying to steal our territory. You're trying to steal ours, Brambleclaw retorted furiously. Back at the horse place, we said we'd use the clearing on either side of the stream as a boundary. You must have crossed it, because I certainly haven't. There isn't a clearing here, Mousebrain, Rowan-Claw snarled. The stream veers deeper into our territory, and the trees go right up to both banks. We have set the boundary in a straight line, carrying on from where the stream runs through the clearing. Try looking out for the scent markers next time, and you'll know exactly where ShadowClan begins. He unsheathed his claws, bunching his hindquarters under him, and Brambleclaw braced himself for a fight. But before Rowan-Claw could pounce, a tortoiseshell shriek burst out of the bushes and bowled him over. It was Tawny Pelt. What are you doing? She spat. It's much too soon to start fighting over territory. Rowan-Claw glared at his clanmate. What a surprise! It's the half-clan warrior, he hissed. We all know you'd rather defend your brother than your clan. That's not true. No, it's not. Brambleclaw patted towards to stand next to his sister. I know Tawny Pelt is loyal to ShadowClan. Rowan-Claw's disbelieving gaze raked him like a claw. If you ask me, he growled, all the cats who went to see that badger have forgotten which clan they belong to. With a furious yowl, Brambleclaw was about to spring at him when 3 more ShadowClan cats appeared. Cedar Heart, Oak Fur, and Talonpaw. Brambleclaw's belly clenched. He could hardly take on an entire ShadowClan patrol. And what would Tawny Pelt do if her clanmates forced her to join in the fight against her brother? To his relief, he heard Breakenfur's voice from behind him. Brambleclaw, what's going on? Glancing back, he saw his 3 clanmates racing through the trees. The ShadowClan warriors crouched down, unsheathing their claws, but before the warriors could leap on, another new voice rang out. Probably would want the goober to fight that goober. Are you tired of reading? Everything is fine? No, I'm never tired of reading, and everything's wonderful. Thank you for asking. I hope everything's wonderful for you. Stop! Firestar patted out from a patch of thorns behind Brambleclaw, his eyes narrowed in fury. I can't believe how stupid you are being. All of you. If we can't establish our boundaries peacefully, we'll end up shedding the blood of every cat in the forest. Stung, Brambleclaw took a step back and saw his clanmates flatten their neck fur as well. The ShadowClan warriors did the same, though their tails twitched angrily. They crossed our scent markers, Rowan-Claw muttered. No, we didn't, Brambleclaw insisted. He had expected support from his clan leader. Instead, Firestar was behaving as if he didn't even want him to defend their territory. We might need to fight, he argued. This is our home now, and we have to be ready. That's enough. Firestar's eyes were cold. If ShadowClan has set scent markers already, then this is their territory. If they did, Dustpelt put in. I didn't smell any. We will not accuse another clan's cats of lying, Firestar hissed. Rowan-Claw, where is the stream and the clearing that we said we'd use as a boundary? The ShadowClan warrior jerked his head towards his own territory. The stream's back there, and there isn't a clearing this far from the lake. Twitching his tail contemptuously towards Brambleclaw, he added, I already told him that. Then ShadowClan has the right to be here, Firestar decided. ThunderClan will find other places to hunt. Come on, we're going back to camp. Brambleclaw couldn't believe what he was hearing. He clamped his teeth together to stop himself from challenging his leader in front of the warriors from another clan. The most he could do was glare at the ShadowClan patrol as he swung around and followed Firestar back through the trees. As he approached the dead tree where he had killed the thrush, he noticed a faint scent hanging in the air. It was the Shadow Clan marker, but it was so weak that he hardly recognized it, and it definitely held traces of Thunder Clan, Wind Clan, and River Clan scents as well. Brambleclaw didn't feel any less furious now that he knew Shadow Clan hadn't been lying. It wasn't Shadow Clan he was angry with. It was Firestar. Why had his leader assumed that Brambleclaw and the other Thunder Clan cats were in the wrong? Why hadn't he stopped to listen to their explanation for crossing the boundary? Brambleclaw curled his lips. If he carried on like this, Firestar would end up handing the entire forest over to the other clans. On their journey to the Sundrown place, he and the other 5 cats had discussed everything, and even when Brambleclaw emerged as the natural leader, they had still made all the important decisions together. Why couldn't Firestar be more like that? Every cat in the clan had an opinion about their new home, and blindly following orders wasn't always the best solution. Before they reached the hollow, Firestar stopped. Brigandfur, I want you to go that way. He pointed with his tail to an area no cat had explored yet, where the trees grew more thickly. See what you can find, and whether there are any good landmarks for the boundary, but I need one of you to come back with me. Brambleclaw, you'll do. Brambleclaw watched the other 3 cats vanish into the break-in before turning to follow Firestar. What do you want me to do? We need a lot of moss and bedding for the new nests, Firestar replied. I want you to collect as much as you can before it gets dark. What? Brambleclaw stopped dead, his anger surging up again. That's a job for an apprentice. Usually, yes, but the apprentices are busy building a barrier at the camp entrance. Just do it, Brambleclaw. You know every cat has to pitch in until our new home is fully established. Okay, Brambleclaw muttered. He let Firestar go on and stopped at the foot of a tree to claw at the moss between the roots, taking out his anger on the close-packed stems. Whatever Firestar said about every cat pitching in, this was punishment for his scrap with the Shadow Clan patrol. Brambleclaw had only been trying to defend his clan's territory. He wanted to be trusted, not to be given responsibility, and here he was collecting moss. Patting back with a ball of moss clenched between his teeth, he met Squirrelflight and the rest of the hunting patrol, laden with fresh kill. Hi, Brambleclaw, Squirrelflight called to him, setting down the squirrel she was carrying. This place is great for prey. Brambleclaw couldn't share her excitement. The only thing he'd been allowed to hunt for his clan was a heap of bedding. Not bothering to put the moss down so he could answer, he brushed past his clanmate and stalked into the camp. Firestar is definitely very stressed out. True. And Brambleclaw is also, I feel like that was a good chapter to show how much Brambleclaw was influenced by his journey. He really is used to giving orders. And now or not giving orders, not just giving orders, but like being in a group of same-minded cats and figuring out what to do. And then for his word to be the final word, right? Like, even if there was some argument within the group, whatever he kind of like, if it came down to it, he had to decide, right? And so now he's going back under Firestar's, and he doesn't completely agree with what Firestar is saying. And he would have been that kind of like deal breaker cat, but now he isn't. And that's kind of, I think his ambition is a little, yeah. Chapter 13. I said, what are you doing here? Oh my God, it's not Mudclaw. I said, what are you doing here? Leafpaw felt her pelt bristle as she met Crowfeather's furious glare. I've come to help, she hissed. Morningflower and Darkfoot are ill. I've brought herbs for them. How do you know what's wrong? Crowfeather asked suspiciously. Because we got the same problem in ThunderClan, Leafpaw retorted. There was no need to tell him about Mothwing and the tainted water. She didn't want to give the prickly WindClan warrior the smallest chance to accuse Mothwing of deliberately poisoning the elders. Back off, Crowfeather, Whitetail mewed. I asked Leafpaw to come. The dark gray warrior let out a snort of disgust. He didn't say anything else, but he watched Leafpaw closely as she began to examine Morningflower. She found his presence thoroughly off-putting, but she couldn't tell him to go away, not in his own camp. When she was sure Morningflower was suffering from the same illness as Mousefur and the others, Leafpaw chewed a few mint leaves into a pulp and used her claws to part Morningflower's jaws. Pushing the pulp in her mouth, she stroked her throat to make her swallow. Whitetail crouched close by. Will she die? I don't know, Leafpaw admitted. Silently, she added a prayer to StarClan. Please let her go. Please let her get well. As she waited for the healing herbs to work, she heard Darkfoot stirring. The old tomcat raised his head to look around with bleary eyes. Great StarClan, my belly aches, he complained. Where's Barkface with the juniper? He's not back yet, Whitetail meowed, but Leafpaw's here with some water mint. Leafpaw? Darkfoot blinked. She's a ThunderClan cat. Before Leafpaw could explain, he added, ThunderClan, WindClan, who cares? So long as she knows what she's doing. He chewed the mint leaves Leafpaw sat in front of him and rested his head on his paws again. That's an old cat, if you ask me. A choking sound from Morningflower drew Leafpaw's attention to her. The old she-cat was retching feebly, her legs jerking. What have you done to her? Crowfeather snarled. She's getting worse. He tried to nudge Leafpaw away. She leapt backwards, and he bared his teeth at her when she tried to dodge around him to get back to her patient. Stop! Spinning around, Leafpaw saw One Whisker padding into the bushes, with Tornir just behind him. Crowfeather, what do you think you're doing? Leafpaw came to help. She shouldn't be here, Crowfeather growled. Are you saying she shouldn't do us a favor? She shouldn't try to save the life of one of our cats? One Whisker's voice was level, but tense with anger. When Crowfeather didn't reply, he added, Since you're taking such an interest, you can stay to keep an eye on her. If she needs you to do anything, you do it. Leafpaw, don't be afraid to ask. Leafpaw dipped her head. Thanks, One Whisker. I think Whitetail and I can manage. I want Whitetail for a hunting patrol, One Whisker told her, but Crowfeather hasn't got anything else to do. He beckoned to Whitetail and patted away. Crowfeather glared at Leafpaw. Treat me like an apprentice in your crow food, he hissed. Much as he had ruffled her fur, Leafpaw couldn't help feeling that One Whisker had been a bit tough on Crowfeather. Let's just concentrate on helping Morningflower, she mewed. We need to get some more water mint down her. She chewed up more of the leaves and asked Crowfeather to hold Morningflower's jaws open while she pushed the pulp into her mouth, praying that the old cat wouldn't vomit it up again. She flinched as Crowfeather's flank brushed hers, making her fur tingle like the air before a storm. He leaped back too, then stepped forward again without meeting her eyes, as if he were embarrassed. Bro. Morningflower had gone limp again, as if she were exhausted. Leafpaw sat beside her, stroking her belly gently with her tail. She was acutely conscious of Crowfeather watching her, and wished he would go away. After a while, she thought the old she-cat's breathing was growing stronger. Darkfoot was dozing again, occasionally letting out a rusty purr. Aww. Are they getting better? Crowfeather whispered. I think so, Leafpaw replied. I'm sure Darkfoot will be fine. It's Morningflower I'm worried about. Leafpaw. A shadow fell across Morningflower's body, and Leafpaw looked up to see Barkface. It's good to see you. He spoke around a leaf-wrapped bundle. When he set it down, the leaves fell back to show a few shriveled juniper berries. Barkface, I hope you don't mind, Leafpaw began nervously. I met some of your clan in the woods, and they said Morningflower was very ill. We've had the same trouble, so... Barkface interrupted her with a wave of the tail. What is this? Reading! You're very welcome. I've no idea yet where the best herbs grow. I only found one juniper bush. The birds must have taken most of the berries. Sniffing carefully at Morningflower, he added, She's better than when I left. What are you giving her? Watermint? Good thinking. Though I'd use juniper myself, if I could find enough. I'm illiterate. Good thing I'm here. Can I go then? Crowfeather asked loudly. Oh, yes, yes. Barkface waved him away. I can take over now. Leafpaw watched him go, wondering why she was feeling disappointed. She hated the idea of falling out with any cat, but it hurt even more when Crowfeather was a friend of Squirrelflight's. Though what her sister saw in him, she couldn't begin to guess. You'd better go too, Leafpaw, Barkface meowed. You've done good work here, and your clan will be needing you. Leaving what was left of the waterman, Leafpaw rose to her paws. Let me know how Morningflower gets on. I will. I'll get a message to you somehow, Barkface promised. Leafpaw pushed her way out of the bush. One Whisker was in the center of the camp, with some of the warriors around him, and she decided to tell him she was leaving. Her steps faltered when she saw that one of the cats talking to the clan leader was Mudclaw. One Whisker spotted her. How's Morningflower? He asked. I think she'll be fine. Barkface is with her now. We can't thank you enough for what you've done, the Wind Clan leader meowed, his eyes warm. Tornir told me that when he met you, he and Thornclaw were having a dispute over boundaries in the woods. I've decided that we'll leave that area to ThunderClan from now on. We'll put our scent markers on the edge of the trees, close to the foot of the hill. That's very generous of you, Leafpaw began, but she was interrupted by a growl from Mudclaw. Are you completely mouse-brained? Rasped the former deputy. You're giving away WindClan territory for a paw full of healing herbs? Barkface was perfectly capable of treating the sick cats without this apprentice sticking her nose in. One Whisker spun to face him. Mudclaw, you are a fool if you think this is about nothing more than herbs. Think of everything ThunderClan has done for us. How many lifetimes would it take to repay them? Without their friendship, every cat in WindClan would be crow food by now. Mudclaw snarled, curling his lips to reveal sharp yellow teeth, and Leafpaw had to sink her claws into the ground to stop herself from shrinking away. One or two of the other warriors were looking uneasy too, including Crowfeather. She waited for him to back Mudclaw up and say that she shouldn't have come, but the lean gray warrior said nothing. I don't want to hear of any fights over the border with ThunderClan, One Whisker growled. That stretch of wood isn't much use to us. Since when has WindClan hunted among trees? There's more than prey among trees. Webfoot stepped forward to stand beside Mudclaw. Herbs, for one thing. I know Barkface needs plants that we'd never find on open moorland. That's enough, One Whisker snapped. There's plenty of territory left, and Barkface never had trouble finding supplies before. His warriors dipped their heads, but none of them looked happy about their leader's orders. Mudclaw turned away, muttering, Traitor! In a voice just loud enough to be overheard. Leafpaw's belly clenched with anxiety. She guessed several of the WindClan warriors would agree with Mudclaw, that One Whisker was not putting the good of his own clan first by harking back to their old alliances with ThunderClan. She wondered what would happen if Mudclaw were to challenge him for the leadership. How many cats would support him with tooth and claw? You'll want to be getting back, One Whisker meowed. Crowfeather, please go with Leafpaw as far as her camp and tell Firestar my decision. Crowfeather looked up, his eyes wide. Me? Oh no, Leafpaw thought. Aloud she hissed, You don't have to. I'm perfectly capable of looking after myself. Just because I'm a medicine cat doesn't mean I don't know how to use my claws. One Whisker flicked his ears at her. Crowfeather, that was an order. Crowfeather still looked appalled, but he heaved an exaggerated sigh. Come on. I'll only get in trouble if I don't go with you. Leafpaw could see she would have to give in. As Crowfeather whisked around and headed up the slope to the edge of camp, she nodded a hasty farewell to One Whisker and bounded after the dark gray warrior. He set a fast pace, not asking Leafpaw if she could keep up. He was so rude. She couldn't be bothered trying to make conversation. But even in the silence, the air between them crackled like green leaf lightning. He obviously hated the idea that a ThunderClan cat had done his clan a favor. As a medicine cat, Leafpaw lived outside the clan-based rivalries held by other cats. If this was what it felt like, she was glad she didn't have to treat cats like enemies just because they came from different clans. Although Crowfeather had been one of the journeying cats, he had fallen back quicker than any cat into the older ways. With his bristling fur and awkward sidelong glances, he seemed only too ready to rekindle the old rivalries. Leafpaw heaved a sigh of relief when they came to the stream. They were higher up than the place where ThunderClan had crossed the night before, and Crowfeather led her nimbly across some stepping stones back into ThunderClan territory. Not long after, she recognized the bushes that surrounded the top of the stone hollow. Leafpaw took the lead and followed the slope of land down to the gap in the cliffs. When they reached the entrance, she saw that a thorn barrier was partially in place, and inside, a fresh kill pile had appeared on the clearing space among the brambles. Firestar was standing by the thicket where Ferncloud and Birchkit had spent the night. Squirrelflight was helping Ferncloud drag out long tendrils of bramble. "We could make a good nursery here," Ferncloud panted, reaching up with her hind paw to unhook a thorn from her flank. "It's right up against the rock wall, so it'll be sheltered in bad weather. We need to make more space inside, though." "That won't take long," Squirrelflight assured her, energetically dragging away a bramble twice as long as she was, while Birchkit pounced playfully on the other end. Brambleclaw appeared with a ball of moss and carried it through the entrance of the new nursery. Leafpaw was impressed that a warrior was prepared to help with apprentice tasks. Brambleclaw was obviously determined to settle his clanmates into the home he had found for them. Ferncloud followed him inside to help arrange it. Birchkit gave up hunting the end of Squirrelflight's bramble and bundled after his mother. "Firestar, Crowfeather is here." Leafpaw dipped her head to the leader of the clan. "He came back with me from WindClan." "Thanks." He padded over to the young WindClan warrior. "Is everything okay?" "Leafpaw helped Morningflower." Crowfeather sounded distinctly ungrateful. "And One Whisker asked me to tell you that ThunderClan can be the first to set scent markers in the woodland across the stream. He's happy for WindClan's boundary to be set along the edge of the trees." Firestar's eyes stretched wide in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected to win that territory so easily. "That's very good of One Whisker," he replied. "Thank him for me." "And thanks for bringing me back," Leafpaw added. Just because Crowfeather had behaved like a fox with a thorn in its paw doesn't mean she had to be rude too. Crowfeather gave her a long look, hostile and something else in his eyes. He seemed about to say something, then just nodded and headed out of camp. "Hey!" Squirrelflight called after him. "Ignore your old friends, why don't you?" The WindClan warrior didn't look back and vanished among the ferns. Firestar stared at the quivering green fronds that had swallowed Crowfeather up. "One Whisker's being very generous," he remarked, though he didn't quite sound as pleased as Leafpaw would expected. "Quite different from ShadowClan," he added. "ShadowClan?" Leafpaw echoed, wondering what had made her father think that. "There was nearly a fight!" Squirrelflight told her excitedly. "Brambleclaw crossed the ShadowClan scent markers, and ShadowClan patrol tried to chase him off." "We could have dealt with them," Brambleclaw mewed, reappearing from the nursery without his burden of moss. "I suppose they were only putting their clan's interests first. I wonder if One Whisker could say the same. I mean, he's just giving away a fair chunk of good hunting territory." He sounded curious rather than hostile, but Squirrelflight rounded up on him with her tail fluffed up. "At least he's loyal to his old friends," she flashed. "Something you seem to have forgotten about." Anger flared in Brambleclaw's eyes. Instead of speaking, he clamped his jaw shut and stalked off. Firestar shook his head worriedly, followed him for a few paces, then veered off and went to talk to Thornclaw by the fresh kill pile. "What was that about?" Leafpaw asked her sister in dismay. "Why has everything gone wrong between you and Brambleclaw?" Squirrelflight shrugged. "Don't ask me. He's been in a foul mood ever since we came here." She gave up trying to pretend she didn't care and gazed at Leafpaw with eyes that were green pools of hurt and bewilderment. I don't think he likes me anymore." Leafpaw couldn't think of anything to say to comfort her. She could heal wounds and knew the right herbs for bellyaches, but the breach between her sister and Brambleclaw was totally beyond her. That was part of life that a medicine cat would never know. She thought she could probably feel relieved that she would never have to suffer such pain. Then she saw the hunger in Squirrelflight's gaze as it followed Brambleclaw out of camp, and remembered how deeply the two cats cared for each other. A tiny, empty space appeared inside her when she realized that no cat would ever feel that way about her. Dustpelt emerged from the bramble thicket with another long tendril dragging behind him, and almost tripped over Birchkit as the kit hurled himself at the trailing end. "Birchkit! You're in more trouble than a fox in a fit." "Don't scold him," Ferncloud murmured, following her mate into the open. "It's great that he feels happy enough to play." Dustpelt purred in agreement, his eyes shining as the two cats watched their kit growl fiercely at the bramble, gripping it between its teeth and shaking it from side to side. As Leafpaw looked on, the hollow place inside her got bigger. She would never feel for another cat what Squirrelflight felt for Brambleclaw, or enjoy the closeness of a mate and kits. She had never doubted her decision to give her life to StarClan and tread a medicine cat celerity path, but she suddenly couldn't help wondering if she was missing something. "Warrior cats, hi Cordy!" Our cats the cat's anamorphic or normal cats? Yeah, they're normal kitty cats. They're like, yeah, just imagine them as normal meow meows in a forest. It's just this massive group of cats hanging out. She's just like me, for real, for real. Cats doing cats things, hunting, attacking each other, killing each other, you know. Trials and tribulations of kitty cat life. What time is it? Okay, I have to be acutely aware. So, 4:07. I think I'll read until 4:30 and then I'll head out. Average day in a cat's life, yeah. So I can like prep to get ready to go. I'll send so many pictures, okay? Okay. Chapter 14. Cool grass swept against Brambleclaw's pelt as he prowled through the undergrowth. He could hear the scuttering of tiny creatures underneath the bushes, and his senses were flooded with the scent of prey. Before he could make a catch, he emerged into the open space. Almost a full moon hung in the clear sky, outlining every grass stem and leaf with pale silver rays. Just in front of him, the ground fell away into a cleft, with rocks jutting from its steep sides. Brambleclaw stared in astonishment. This was the ravine leading down to the old ThunderClan camp. He lifted his head and sniffed cautiously. There was no harsh tang of two-legged monsters in the air, no noise louder than the gentle rustle of the wind in the trees. Their home was safe. The destruction of the forest, the fear and hunger, the long journey through the mountains had been nothing more than a dream. Brambleclaw pelted down the ravine and the gorse tunnel at the bottom, his heart nearly bursting with happiness. In a few heartbeats, he would see all his clanmates again. Greystripe would never have been captured by Two Legs. All fern-clad kits would still be alive. The elders would be in their den, querulously ordering the apprentices to get rid of their ticks. Trembling with excitement, Brambleclaw pushed his way through the gorse tunnel into the camp. His jaws parted to let out a yowl of greeting. Then he stopped dead. The clearing was completely empty, except for one cat sitting alone in the middle of the open space. The cat raised his head and gazed at Brambleclaw with scorching amber eyes. It was Tiger Star. Brambleclaw almost choked with shock and disbelief. Greystripe's capture, the death of Ferncloud's kits, the endless journey, all those things were real. This was the dream, and it had suddenly become a nightmare. Tiger Star kinked his tail and beckoned Brambleclaw to come closer. Brambleclaw stiffened, then padded slowly forward. As he drew closer, he saw his father more clearly, his muscular shoulders and broad head, his burning amber eyes.
"Welcome," Tiger Star rumbled. "I have waited many moons to speak with you."
Brambleclaw stopped a couple of tail lengths away. He had no idea what to say. All he could think of was that he was the image of his father, the breadth of his shoulders, the shape of his head, the exact shade of his eyes. He could have been staring at his reflection in a pool.
"I have seen your courage and strength," Tiger Star went on. "I am proud to call you kin."
Thank you? Brambleclaw kneaded his forepaws on the ground. Why have you come here? Did StarClan send you?
"I do not hunt with StarClan," spat Tiger Star. "There is more sky than Silverpelt, and there are hunting grounds that not even StarClan know of."
His gaze slid past Brambleclaw.
"Welcome," he mewed. "I hoped you would come. I've looked forward to meeting you."
Brambleclaw spun around to see Hawkfrost emerging from the gorse tunnel. He watched in stunned silence as the RiverClan warrior padded across the clearing and sat beside him. The moonlight cast a pair of identical shadows on the hard-baked ground in front of them, and Brambleclaw realized that a half-blind kit would know at once that all three cats were kin. He told himself that he ought to feel something stronger than bewilderment and curiosity to find out more about his father and half-brother. They came from 3 different clans. Beyond that, Tiger Star had murdered many cats and betrayed his own clanmates to satisfy his hunger for power. Yet Brambleclaw could not shake off the feeling that he had waited a long time for this moment. For all the differences between them, the same blood ran in their veins. Are you Tiger Star?" Hawkfrost asked, reminding Brambleclaw that Hawkfrost had arrived in the forest after his father was killed.
Are you my father?
Tiger Star nodded.
I am. So, how are your new territories?
It's hard being somewhere so different, Hawkfrost admitted. We all miss the forest, Brambleclaw added.
Soon the land by the lake will seem like home to you,
Tiger Star promised.
Establish your boundaries and guard them with tooth and claw, because territory is what binds a clan together.
Yes! Hawkfrost's eyes gleamed. RiverClan has set its scent markers already. Yesterday, BlackClaw and I drove out a badger that was living in our territory.
Good, good.
Tiger Star's ears pricked, and he raised his head as if he heard a voice calling him. Above the trees, the sky was growing pale with the first light of dawn.
I must go now.
The dark tabby meowed.
Goodbye, Brambleclaw, Hawkfrost. We will meet again as we walk the path of dreams. Of that I am sure.
He rose to his paws. At that moment, a cloud drifted over the face of the moon, plunging the clearing into darkness for a single heartbeat. When it cleared, Tiger Star was gone. I must go too. Hawkfrost touched noses with Brambleclaw and began to pad back into the camp entrance. No, wait! Don't go! Brambleclaw called. I have to go. I'm on the dawn patrol. What are you talking about, Brambleclaw? Brambleclaw blinked and sat up. Cloudtail was looking at him with a puzzled expression as he groomed scraps of moss off his pelt. Is there something wrong? He asked. Do you want me to tell Brakenfur I can't go on the patrol? Brambleclaw shook his head, dazed. No, I'm fine. He lay down again and closed his eyes tightly, as if he could force out the thorn-sharp grief that tore at his belly. The dream had faded, and he was in the stone hollow again. Tiger Star, Hawkfrost, and the old ThunderClan camp were gone. Brambleclaw slept dreamlessly for a while and awoke feeling less confused and wretched. He padded out from the ferns and arched his back into a stretch. The sky was brighter now, outlining the bare branches at the top of the rock wall. A pulse of excitement ran through him as he remembered that tonight the moon would be full, and the clans would meet for a gathering. He glanced around the camp. The clearing looked very different from the first time he had seen it. Many of the brambles had been outrooted to form a barrier blocking the camp entrance. The biggest thicket had been turned into a nursery. The apprentices were using a shallow cave in the rock wall as their den, while the warriors slept under the spreading branches of a thorn bush almost as big as the one in the old camp. The elders still hadn't found a den that they could agree on. Every night they would try a different spot and wake up complaining that it was too damp or too drafty. Brambleclaw suspected Goldenflower and Longtail were rather enjoying the search for a perfect place, because it meant they had to inspect every corner of the hollow that had even started advising the other cats on the best places to bask in the sun or eat fresh kill out of the rain. Gradually, the stone hollow was becoming more like home, but Brambleclaw couldn't shake off the memory of his dream when he had gone back to camp in the ravine. It wasn't just a longing to be back in the forest that tugged at his paws and made him restless. He kept thinking of his father and half-brother, too. What had Tiger Star meant about hunting in different skies? Was he keeping watch over Firestar and the whole of ThunderClan from wherever he hunted now? Brambleclaw shook his head violently, as if the dream were a cobweb clinging to his pelt. Their old home had gone, and there was nothing to be gained by fretting over memories. Focusing on practical duties, he saw that the fresh kill pile near the entrance of the camp was getting low. At the same moment, Dustpelt emerged from the nursery and padded across to meet him. Hi, Brambleclaw meowed. Want to go hunting?
Great.
Dustpelt's eyes gleamed.
Who should we take with us?
Brambleclaw wondered if he should go back and look for Squirrelflight, but then he heard a cat call out Dustpelt's name, and glanced around to see Brakenfur racing towards them. Dustpelt! He panted as he skidded to a halt. You had Whitepaw fetching fresh bedding all day yesterday. Can I have her for warrior training today? It's time we got the apprentices back into proper routine.
Sure,
Dustpelt replied.
Do you want to come hunting with us?
Bring Spiderpaw too, Brambleclaw suggested. Mousefur isn't well enough for patrols yet. Good thinking. The voice came from behind Brambleclaw. He spun around to see Firestar coming over. I've just had a word with Mousefur, Firestar went on. Yesterday, Spiderpaw chased away a young foss that was sniffing around the entrance to camp. We both think he's ready to be a warrior, so we're going to hold his ceremony at Sunhigh. You can tell him this will be his last hunt as an apprentice. Brambleclaw's tail curled up with satisfaction. Making a new warrior is one of the most important things a clan could do, and Spiderpaw's ceremony would be one more thing to make the Stone Hollow feel like home. It would be something to report at the gathering, too. Firestar wished them luck on their hunt and padded off, while Breaking-Fur went to fetch the 2 apprentices. Soon the 5 cats were climbing the slope around the edge of the hollow before striking off into the trees above the camp. They had almost reached the highest point of the cliff when they heard a plaintive mew behind them. Wait for me! Brambleclaw looked back to see Birchkit struggling after them, stumbling over tussocks of grass in his efforts to keep up.
Birchkit!
Dustpelt exclaimed.
What do you think you're doing?
The kit looked up at his father with pleading eyes. I want to go hunting too. Please, can I? Breaking-Fur rolled his eyes at Brambleclaw.
Kits!
Dustpelt did not share their amusement.
No, of course not, he meowed sharply. You can't go hunting until you're an apprentice.
Well, I'm good at hunting,
Birchkit boasted.
Look, I'll show you. I'll catch that bird.
He nodded at a robin that was perched on one of the thorn bushes at the very edge of the hollow. Before any cat could stop him, he wriggled his haunches under him and launched himself at it. No! Dustpelt and Brambleclaw yowled, springing after him. Brambleclaw reached him first and fastened his teeth into the scruff, just as the thorn bushes gave way under Birchkit's weight, and he began to slide down the hollow. Another heartbeat, and he would have tumbled over just like squirrel flight, except at this point the cliff was twice as high, and no cat who fell that far could expect to survive. Scrambling backwards, Brambleclaw dropped Birchkit on solid ground, well away from the edge. The kit crouched there shivering. Dustpelt stood over him, bristling with fury.
Are you completely mouse-brained? He hissed. Don't you think there's a reason kits stay in the nursery with their mother until they're apprenticed?
Birchkit nodded, his eyes huge and scared.
I'm sorry,
he whimpered. Don't be too hard on him, Breaking-Fur urged. He didn't mean any harm. Dustpelt whirled around to glare at him.
What difference does that make? He would be dead if it hadn't been for Brambleclaw.
He prodded Birchkit with his tail.
I haven't heard you thank him yet.
Birchkit flattened his ears and ducked his head.
Thank you, Brambleclaw. I'm really sorry.
That's okay, Brambleclaw meowed. He felt very sorry for the frightened kit. The scare had been enough to keep him in the camp for several moons, judging by Birchkit's terrified face.
Come on, stand up. You're not hurt.
Dustpelt bent over the kit and gave him a few fierce licks. Brambleclaw knew that he had been so angry only because he had nearly lost the last of his litter.
Go home to Ferncloud, and let's have no more of this nonsense.
Birchkit nodded, and Dustpelt pressed his muzzle comfortably against his side before the tiny cat set off back towards the camp entrance. His father watched him until he was out of sight.
We'll have to make a rule, he decided. No kits anywhere near the edge of the cliff. That goes for apprentices, too, he added, flicking his ears at Whitepaw and Spiderpaw, who had watched the near miss in wide-eyed silence. Whitepaw nodded. Spiderpaw's tail curled up as if he were reminding himself that the rule wouldn't apply to him after Sunhigh. He seemed to have forgotten that he had nearly fallen over when the clan first approached the camp. We could put scent markers along the edge, Brambleclaw suggested. That way every cat would be reminded. Good idea,
mewed Dustpelt.
Have a word with Firestar when we get back. Come on, let's hunt before Spiderpaw misses his warrior ceremony.
As Brambleclaw padded after the others, his paws still tingled with the sense of danger. He glanced back at the thorn bushes and pictured Birchkit's tiny body, battered and broken in the clearing below. Hi, John. Have I really brought the clan somewhere safe? He wondered. Since they had arrived nearly half a moon ago, there had been no sign from StarClan to suggest they were still being watched by their warrior ancestors. Was this place really the place where they were meant to be? Brambleclaw led the patrol across the stream into the stretch of woodland that One Whisker had given to ThunderClan. It was not long before he spotted a squirrel scuffling at the foot of a tree. Brambleclaw crept forward and brought it down with a skillful blow that snapped its neck.
Well done,
Dustpelt called. Brambleclaw began scratching earth over the squirrel, pausing as Whitepaw padded up to him. Do you think we should really take that? She asked nervously. Territory on this side of the stream was supposed to be WindClan's. But One Whisker gave it to us, Brambleclaw went on, covering the fresh kill. This is our prey. His fur prickled with irritation that an apprentice was suggesting he would steal food from another clan.
It wasn't his problem if WindClan wanted to give away their hunting grounds. Whitepaw didn't protest again when he led his patrol further into the trees.
By Sunhigh, the whole clan had eaten well. And there was still a good pile of fresh kill left over. When they had finished their meal, they stayed at the center of the hollow, where the bushes had been cleared away to make a space for the clan to gather. It was time for Spiderpaw's warrior ceremony.
Noifer! Oh my gosh. Can't believe there's a Shadow Clan believer in the chat.
There was no high rock like the one in the old camp. Instead, Firestar had found a ledge a few tail lengths above the heads of the other cats, which he'd reached by leaping up on a tumble of broken rock that made rough stepping stones up the cliff. Just below the ledge, already cats were beginning to call it the high ledge. There was a narrow cleft that opened into a cave where Firestar had decided to make his den. Of all the dens in the new camp, this was most like the one in the ravine, enclosed by lichen-covered walls with a dry, sandy floor. Firestar raised his voice in a yowl, his pelt a splash of orange flame against the blue-gray rock. Let all cats old enough to catch their own prey join here beneath the ledge for a clan meeting. Brambleclaw's pelt tingled to hear the familiar words ring around the hollow. He watched the leggy black figure of Spiderpaw, his pelt groomed until it was as glossy as a raven's wing, cross the clearing to stand beside his mentor, Mousefur. She looked thin and shaky, as if she was still not quite recovered from her bellyache, but her eyes shone with pride as her apprentice joined her. Brambleclaw wriggled forward, hoping to sit beside Squirrelflight, but he stopped when he saw that she was sitting with Ashfur, Sootfur, and Rainwhisker. Their heads were close together, and their shoulders shook gently as if they were sharing a joke. Brambleclaw curled his lips, suddenly feeling hollow and cold. He sat gloomily beside the nearest cat, who happened to be Cloudtail, and tried to concentrate.
Trouble? Murmured the white warrior. He glanced past Brambleclaw and flicked his ears towards Squirrelflight. What have you done to ruffle her fur? Nothing, Brambleclaw replied stubbornly. The reasons for their quarrel were too complicated and private to share with any cat. Hey, don't you worry. Cloudtail gave him a sympathetic flick with his tail. It'll blow over. Maybe. Brambleclaw sighed. He really didn't want to discuss it. We have a ceremony to perform. Firestar meowed as soon as all the cats were settled. Mousefur, are you satisfied that Spiderpaw is ready to become a warrior? The brown warrior dipped her head. I am. Firestar ran lightly down the broken rocks until he reached the floor of the hollow and beckoned Spiderpaw to closer to him with his tail. Spiderpaw stepped forward, quivering from nose to tail. I, Firestar, leader of ThunderClan, call upon my warrior ancestors to look down on this apprentice. Firestar's voice rang out clearly above the stone of the wall with the gentle creak of branches on the rim of the hollow. He has trained hard to understand the ways of your noble code, and I commend him to you as a warrior in his turn. He fixed his gaze on Spiderpaw and went on, Spiderpaw, do you promise to uphold the warrior code and to protect and defend this clan, even at the cost of your life? I do, Spiderpaw replied eagerly. Then, by the powers of StarClan, I give you your warrior name. Spiderpaw, from this moment on, you will be known as Spiderleg. StarClan honors your courage and your enthusiasm, and we welcome you as a full warrior to ThunderClan. He took a pace forward and rested his muzzle on the top of Spiderleg's head. The young warrior gave Firestar's shoulder a respectful lick, then stepped back to join the other warriors. Spiderleg! Spiderleg! The clan raised their voice to greet him by his new name. Dustpelt looked ready to burst with pride, and Ferncloud's eyes were shining with joy to see their eldest son made a warrior at last. Birchkit bounced around his brother's paws, clearly recovered from his scare that morning. Firestar raised his tail for silence as the noise died away, all the clan turning curious faces forward towards him. Before we go on our duties, I have another ceremony to perform. Firestar meowed. Mousefur and I have been talking together, and she has come to a decision. Mousefur, are you still sure that this is what you want? The old she-cat dipped her head in assent as she stepped forward. Mousefur, Firestar continued, is it your wish to give up the name of warrior and go to join the elders? Brambleclaw thought he heard a tremor in her voice as she mewed. It is.
He guessed it was hard for the proud warrior to accept that she was growing old. The combination of the long journey and her recent illness had proven that she was not as strong as she used to be. Sadness chilled his fur as he remembered her courage and her fighting skills. Your clan honors you and all the service you have given us, Firestar went on. I call upon StarClan to give you many seasons of rest. He laid his tail upon Mousefur's shoulder, and the old cat bowed her head before padding over to stand beside Longtail and Goldenflower. I don't need much rest, Firestar, she rasped. I'll still keep my claws sharp, and if trouble comes, I'll be ready. A murmur of enthusiasm, amusement, and admiration rose from the cats around her, and one or two of them called out, Mousefur, Mousefur, as if they were welcoming a new warrior. Goldenflower gave her a friendly lick around the ears. The meeting began to break up. Brambleclaw went over to congratulate Spiderleg and noticed Firestar beckoning him. I heard Whitepaw telling Cloudtail about that squirrel you caught this morning, his leader meowed. Brambleclaw's pelt bristled. He deliberately avoided ShadowClan territory by taking the patrol in the opposite direction. Was Firestar going to blame him for invading WindClan now? One Whisker said we could have that stretch of woodland, he pointed out, trying not to let his anger show in his voice. I know. Firestar's voice was mild. You haven't done anything wrong. But go easy on that patch of territory just for now. We'll sort it out eventually, but until we do, I don't want to take advantage of One Whisker's good nature. I didn't intend to, Brambleclaw replied, relieved. But it's his responsibility to fight for WindClan boundaries. Or does he expect us to defend his territory as well as his own, just because we've been traveling together for the past moon? Firestar narrowed his eyes. Don't worry, Brambleclaw, he meowed. The time will come when every clan will defend themselves with teeth and claws, and fight for their territory as fiercely as we ever did. But that time is not now. He turned to go, then paused and glanced over his shoulders. Get some rest, Brambleclaw, he had advised. You'll be coming to the gathering tonight. Brambleclaw blinked, hoping his leader couldn't see the anticipation that surged through him, making his fur stand on end. I'll get to see Hawkfrost again. I can ask him about the dream. He burned with curiosity to know whether his half-brother had met with Tigerstar too. Did kins share dreams? Not always, but his dream of the old camp had been so real, almost more real than finding their new home. If Tigerstar was really watching over his sons, surely he would want to visit them both. He caught his breath, suddenly choking with guilt. Hawkfrost belonged to a rival clan. The fact that he and Brambleclaw were kin meant nothing compared to their loyalty to their clanmates and their leaders. It was ridiculous to think that he and Hawkfrost might have a shared dream. Yet as he padded across the warrior's den to catch a nap before leaving for the gathering, Brambleclaw's paws tingled with the thought that he would soon see his half-brother again. Chapter 15! Oh! It's exactly 1 minute to 4:30. Holy moly, I was spot on. Heck yeah, wow. Guys, as we read more of these books, I just get more and more excited. 1 minute chapter. I get more and more excited for the third series. I love the third series so much. I cannot wait. All right, though. We ended like almost nearly 100 pages to the end of the book. So next week we'll hopefully finish. We'll hopefully finish this book, and then we can go on to the second last book, and then the last book, and then the third series. Oh, so exciting. But yes. I am going to get ready and then go pick up our new born child, and then I'll send you guys a whole bunch of pictures on Twitter because I will not be able to do anything. Oh, I'm a little bit worried because tomorrow's my long day, and that means that my roommate's going to be with the kitten all day pretty much by herself, and she's never had a kitten before. Oh well, it'll be a learning moment, I guess. She can figure things out. All right, I'll see you guys Friday. Oh yeah, so hopefully, I don't know if it's still gonna happen, but Dunn is gonna start Outer Wilds, and I'm gonna be like just hanging out with him on call while he plays Outer Wilds. So I don't know if we'll. You have a lovely night, Cordy. I don't know if we'll actually
Yeah! Add me too.
I don't know if I've been added. Anyways, yeah, so hopefully that'll work on Friday. He has a collab on Friday earlier though, so it might not be this week, it might be next week, I don't know. You can join, just stay out of your channel. Oh, I have a channel? Wow.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna head off now.
Time to kitten catty meow meows. I'll switch to the ending screen.
You'll be waiting to see the kitten, me too!
I mean, I guess, yeah. Oh my god, did you see that? That was not in sync. Oh well, that's fine. I bet it's because it's like the credits are like a video, so it was having trouble loading or something. I don't know.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you guys on Friday.
And even if we're not doing the thing with Dun, we'll still be playing our WoWs.
I'll keep you guys updated on the kitty cat.